I was going to come on here today and make a video about how the Eagles are still in the thick of the playoff race, what has to happen for them to potentially get in, and how it all feels like such a damn tease. And then the news came out a little bit ago from Ian Rappaport saying that Carson Wentz has a back injury and that he might miss the rest of the season. He may not play this Sunday. Now, the thing here is the Eagles have yet to confirm this report, but here is the report from Ian Rappaport from the Twitter. Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz, dealing with a back issue, is not expected to play this week. Sources say, depending on the result, given the time of the year, Wentz may not play again in 2018. The team is still gathering info on his health. And here's Ian Rappaport from Up to the Minute from the NFL Network just a little bit ago.
It is certainly surprising, although for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is something that at least they were preparing for. My understanding, Tom, is that Carson Wentz not expected to play in this now huge game against the Los Angeles Rams. Nick Foles preparing to start. This goes back to a back issue that Wentz has been dealing with. The team is still waiting for more information on this. We should have some either by later today or perhaps to tomorrow, but make no mistake, if the Eagles are going to make any sort of playoff run, it is going to be at the very, very least with Nick Foles starting this Sunday and perhaps beyond.
It's important to note, Ian, this is not a specific new injury for Carson Wentz. He did pop up on the injury report earlier on this season. It's considered a chronic type of a back issue that Carson Wentz has to do some maintenance on. And in the bigger picture, this is precisely the type of scenario, Ian, for why the Eagles were not eager to trade Nick Foles. They held on to the Super Bowl MVP, envisioning a spot where they would need him. Now, they certainly would have liked to think they were not going to be 6-7, potentially need to win out just to get into the playoffs, but they have an experienced player in Foles who can step in. They also have a young quarterback, Nate Sudfeld, who they like, who now, assuming the Wentz is out, would step into that number 2 role.
Okay, so that was Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport from Up to the Minute on NFL Network. So Up to the Minute Live, I guess the show was called. And, you know, as we know and as we heard, Wentz is dealing with a back injury, and he did pop up on the injury report earlier on the season, week 6 through week 8, with a back injury. He did not practice today. Practice reports, you know, they come out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He did not practice today. And weeks 6 through 8, you know, he was also on the injury report with a back issue. I don't know where this back injury came from. Apparently he didn't suffer it in Sunday's game. I don't know. I don't know where this came from. I don't know. This is we'll get more information on this. Doug Peterson didn't really address this injury during his press conference today. So, you know, it's Nick Foles' team moving forward again. And if indeed all this is true, this is Ian Rappaport reporting this. You know, it's Ian Rappaport. He's not always 100% reliable. But if it's Nick Foles, I mean, this is what it was last year. This is when he took over. And he's going to have to win all 3 games for the Philadelphia Eagles to make the playoffs. So the scenarios to get into the postseason, I mean, there's not a lot of teams that you have to go past now because everybody's in free fall. The Eagles aren't the only team that's been disappointing in the NFC. Obviously, we know about the situation in Minnesota and how it's a mess and how they got rid of John DeFilippo yesterday. So basically, here's what has to happen. The Eagles have to win all 3 of their games. Minnesota has to lose a game. And Carolina has to lose a game. Carolina plays New Orleans twice. They're going to lose one of those games. So they're out. Minnesota plays Miami this Sunday, at Detroit, and then Chicago at home to close the year. Now, Chicago at home, depending on, you know, whether or not they have clinched anything, Minnesota might be seeing Chase Daniel in Week 17. So the game that might actually be the one that they lose is Week 16 at Detroit, what we shall see. But, you know, it was going to be hard for the Eagles to run the table, even with Carson Wentz as the quarterback. You know, beating the Rams in L.A., then you got to come all the way back to play Houston at home, and then you play Washington. Obviously, that's a win. But those 2 games against the Rams and Houston, those were not going to be easy at all. And now you got Nick Foles coming back into the fold. He hasn't played since week 2. So you pretty much need a little bit of a minor miracle here on Sunday to hope that Foles can just go right back in there, no rust, throw for 300-something yards, and the Eagles win this football game. So, look, it is what it is. The season has felt like it's been over. It's one of those things that there's been so much emotional investment that I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted from the entire season. I mean, some of these losses this year, man, that Tennessee loss, that Carolina loss, just gut-wrenching. To lose to Dallas twice, gut-wrenching. Minnesota game, gut-wrenching. All these losses have been just exhausting. And we'll see. We'll see if this team wants to try and fight one more time. So their backs are against the wall. Carson Wentz might be out. The underdogs are back.